When the 2021 iPad mini was released, I called it a really impressive device, and I still stand by that. On the surface, Apple has shrunk the excellent features of the iPad Air into a finely tuned little tablet, and for all intents and purposes, it's just that. But after some prolonged use of it, I find myself reaching for the mini less and less the longer I have it. So get subscribed if you like iPad content, and let me explain why. Let's talk about what I have found good with it first, because for all of my personal drawbacks of it, it's got some big features that make it a really convincing product. First off, and most obviously, is the size. Mini means mini, and if you're looking for the iPad experience in a smaller footprint, then this really is the way to go. I can hold this device in one hand no problem thanks to its smaller overall size, and you can slip this into any bag or even a large pocket without weighing yourself down. It's so light, in fact, it would almost seem rude to not take it everywhere with you if you are indeed heading out. Or if you're a MacBook Air user and you like keeping your tech footprint overall quite low, then the Mini is the perfect little companion for that. Oh, and if your hands are big enough, you can actually type really fast on here, thanks to the keyboard being a great size for two-handed typing. I really do think Apple did such a good job with the design of the Mini too. It's a beautiful little device, and the purple colorway is absolutely on point. I'm a huge fan. The device in general really lends itself to doing smaller, more specific things. A good example of that is the Mini being a great digital notebook or organizer. If you are the sort of person to carry around a smallish notebook with you or something similar, then the iPad Mini can take the place of that really easily. Second generation pencil support is also great to have if you are planning on taking notes or doing some sketching, and the wide angle center stage enabled front camera on the Mini makes it a great video calling device too. Secondly, it's gaming, and I know you shouldn't buy an iPad to game on. I think I've said that on this channel a ridiculous amount of times because, well, it's true, your money is better spent elsewhere, but that doesn't detract from the fact that this is Apple's finest gaming machine, if you can even call it that. I've made an entire video on why the Mini is fantastic for gaming, so I'll link that below, but to summarize that video rather quickly, all I can say is the combination of performance and size make this a truly great gaming experience for an iPad. It's small enough to still control touch-based games well without being unwieldy, and if you connect a controller to it, then you can have that more console-like experience. Lastly, it's also a perfect device for reading. If you are a big-time Kindle reader, or if you're going through reams and reams of PDFs for your job, or textbooks if you're learning at school or college, then the smaller size makes this a super comfortable place to do it. Being able to hold it in one hand really invokes that Kindle feeling, and reading on this for long periods of time is no problem at all, especially with dark mode enabled. Speaking of reading and learning new things, I wanted to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, The Guardian Weekly magazine. The Guardian Weekly is a magazine that prioritises the past 7 days' most memorable content with world news, opinion pieces and long-form reads, framed with wonderful photography and insightful companion pieces, all hand-picked from The Guardian and The Observer, which is delivered directly to your door. I'm a big fan of the Global Report, which opens up every issue and gives you a really well-informed overview of what's going on across the planet. And there's often really nice sections on technology too, which I obviously can't help but read. Also, from a personal standpoint, it's actually really nice to have something physical to read rather than another screen constantly trying to grab your attention. Oh, and it's really nicely designed and laid out too, and that really means a lot to me. If this sounds interesting to you and you want to give it a go, for the next couple of weeks they're giving a 50% discount for the next 4 months to everyone watching this video, so follow the link in the description below and go and check them out. And of course, a huge thank you goes out to the folks over at The Guardian for sponsoring this video. Before we move on to why this iPad wasn't quite the right one for me, I did want to touch on the battery life, because for my usage over the time I've been using it, I'm getting a day out of it no problems, and I usually get between 2 and 3 days depending on how I use it. Now of course, battery life is notoriously hard to quantify, so if you do game on here or if you're going to edit a load of 4K video, that battery life is going to drop off pretty considerably pretty quickly. However, for the size of it, I think you're getting a pretty decent amount. Okay, let's talk about why the Mini isn't really the iPad for me, and the reason is actually really simple. For me, an iPad serves as a creation or work device first and foremost, and having a bigger screen for that delivers a much better experience. Of course, you can do creative things on the iPad mini. The A15 chip makes sure of that. Editing 4K videos in LumaFusion is a breeze, drawing in Procreate is fantastic, and editing photos in Lightroom is still that wonderful experience that I really love. But I would never choose to do those things on the smaller screened iPad mini. The bigger canvases of the Air and Pro models deliver a better creative experience across the board for my use, and that's what I really love using an iPad for. Speaking of the Apple Pencil, which is my favourite accessory for the iPad, I am super glad it's supported here on the Mini in the same side snap to charge fashion as the Air and Pros, and the experience here overall is really good. However, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, if you are a digital artist or if you're planning on doing a huge amount of digital note-taking, then you are going to be limited by the size of the Mini. I generally find if I do need to do any pencil-heavy work, then I very rarely reach for the Mini. I'm also a big user of multitasking on the iPad, and that's still implemented in the same way on the Mini, but the smaller screen makes it a tougher experience to actually use and enjoy. Everything feels a little cramped, which makes me not use it quite as much as I'd like to, and pushes me to use a single app at a time. Look, there's no smart connectors or any official Apple keyboards for this iPad either, and I think Apple are making it clear that this isn't really designed to do any major pieces of work on, even though it's remarkably capable. If you pick up a Bluetooth keyboard and have a decent stand, then there's no reason you can't do everything an iPad Air or Pro can pretty much do. But straight out the gate with the Mini, you're missing access to some of those high-level accessories that really make the iPad the device it's capable of being. Oh, and if you are concerned about that jelly screen a lot of people talked about, all I can say is don't be. I haven't noticed it at all in my day-to-day use, and it hasn't affected my experience of the iPad mini at all. And if you really are looking for it, you can see it on occasion, but I don't think it should affect your buying decision. With all of this in mind, I keep coming back around to the same conclusion. I think you'd need to have a really specific use case in mind to choose the iPad mini over the other models. I know it's a little cheaper than the Air, but don't buy it based on that fact. Buy it if you think that having a smaller iPad will suit what you do more. The real trick is to use this as its own device, and that might sound really silly, but when I got the Mini, I immediately started using it like my bigger iPad models, and that's not really what this device is trying to be. I ended up redesigning my home screen and removing the apps that I usually go to for work stuff to focus this iPad down on the smaller things that it does really excel at: gaming, note-taking, and staying organised in apps like Notion. Adding even more fuel to that fire is, I'm also an iPhone 13 Pro Max user, so I've already got quite a large screen device on me at all times, and the jump up to the iPad mini never feels totally worth putting my phone down for. And look, I don't want this video to sound like I'm dunking on the iPad mini, because that's really not the case. I think a lot of people will fall in love with the size of it and be inspired by that to do awesome creative and work related tasks with it. And for people on the move or in jobs where that physical footprint size means a lot, there's really no better choice than this. My final advice on this is pretty simple. The iPad mini is a fantastic device if you have a specific use case in mind that really leans into its size. If you don't, then I would wholeheartedly recommend grabbing an iPad Air or Pro model over it, or even the iPad 9th gen if you're looking at saving some money. The bigger sizes will just let you do more with it, open up better accessory options, and really let you have the best iPad experience, which is totally worth it in my opinion. So that rounds this video up. If you are an iPad mini user, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what your main use case is for it and how you're getting along with it. Anyway, pop a like on the way out, that would be massive, and I will see you all in the next one.